Welcome to Trojan's Conquest Live 16. We got a great show. We have some new facilities to talk about, the Golden Hour version 2.0, some commits, some emojis, but backed by popular demand.
Hold up.
In the building.
What are we drinking? What are we sipping on? What are we sipping on?
Commitments.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 16 of Trojan Conquest Live. We come to you every Sunday to fill you up with the USC news of the day and the week. I have my co-host here, Rick Anaya. We'll be talking this week a lot about what's going on, especially the fact that we had this huge recruiting weekend come up, the biggest of the year, called the Golden Hour. And then later on, we're going to talk about some commitments. We're going to talk about the facilities and everything else. But Rick, how you doing this week?
Tremendous. Another great week, Tim. Happy Father's Day to you and to your dad, Mr. Prangley, I think, who's probably watching. Had the pleasure of meeting your father at a USC-UCLA baseball game. But another great weekend for USC recruiting and outstanding. How can you not be excited? Welcome to our viewers. Welcome, Trojans. Welcome to those college football fans that aren't Trojans that are tuning in. We appreciate you.
All right, let me give me 1 second here to get set up, you guys. So
speaking of Father's Day, though, kudos to Lincoln Riley and his coaching staff. They've been working tirelessly for the year and a half they've been at USC, and this weekend ended with breakfast at crypto.com where the Lakers play. And hopefully right now Lincoln Riley and his staff are enjoying Father's Day with their family. Lincoln Riley, as you know, has 2 younger daughters. And take some time, spend with the family. They've been very, very busy, and they've done an amazing job, especially Annie Hansen and her attention to detail, preparation, execution, her and her staff. It's just phenomenal. As you mentioned, it was the Golden Hour 2.0. They did some change-ups with their big recruiting weekend. A lot different than having a barbecue. I think they call it a champ barbecue out in Norman, Oklahoma. A little bit different here in LA, which we were trying to tell our friends from Norman, but they got salt in their eyes. They can't see straight.
Yeah, as Rick said, you guys, big Trojan. Happy Father's Day to all of you out there. It's just a great day for us to celebrate, our father. And for those of you guys maybe that don't have a father out there, our hearts go out to you. But this week there were a number of things that maybe father themed. I like the one on the top here from Rusty. Again, we've talked to you guys about Rusty. He's been on our show. I think he's just the best guy out there for Twitter and humor. Just reminding Notre Dame and the Bruins who their daddy is every year. I love that emoji. What do you think, Rick?
Oh, it was beautiful. I sent that to you. I said, we got to get this on the show. Fight on Rusty is just he's a laugh, man. And I sent it out to all my boys. They got a kick out of it. You should have like a little Big Ten sticker on that, Rusty, below UCLA, because of us, you're getting some extra money in the Big Ten. But that's beautiful. Congratulations to Marcelles. He did promise his dad he's going to have a present for him or a surprise for him on Father's Day, and he didn't give him a tie. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and as Rick's alluded to now, all of you should be aware of the fact that quarterback from St. John Bosco, 6'11", 185, Marcellus Williams, brother of Max Williams, is made official. He's committed to the Trojans and at a great time. As you know, last week we had some brave recruits come in for a recruiting weekend, and there have been some hints that he's sending to his fellow Braves that maybe there might be some more to come.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I think it was tweeted out that there could be motivation for 3 more to show up, and that would be great for additional St. John Bosco players that are in USC's targets to come to USC. We'll have to find out, but that would obviously be last week. We had the official visits by Peyton Woodyard, who's a Georgia commit, as we know, and then Kyngstonn, Viliamu-Asa, linebacker, highly recruited, supposedly a Notre Dame lean. But if we get those two as well, and who would be the fourth? Who's the fourth one, Tim?
Well, before we get into that, I don't want. Let's wait for that. That's a little later in the show. Before we get there, you guys, I have a poll we dropped. We have a poll. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, the poll is basically just asking you guys, what are your expectations for the 24 recruiting class? Right now, we're inching up towards that top 10, picking up Marcelles Williams, and I believe we'll get probably a couple more this weekend. But where do you think we end? This class is kind of missing that marquee 5-star guy. I think we have one coming right around the corner, and a couple that might be upgraded to 5 stars. But there's definitely one that could be there. And again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves for later in the show. But where do you guys think we are right now? I mean, where do you think we finish up? We know where we are right now. At the end of the year, where do you think we finish? Please hit that poll up. We do have some people already into the poll, but we'd like to get you guys involved. Speaking of getting involved, we also going to switch it up a little bit this week. If at any time you have a question about what we're talking about, or maybe you have a problem with something we said, who knows? Maybe you're a rival fan. Feel free to call in. I have the number I'm going to drop right now. Our phone line. You could call us at any time. I'm open up as soon as I get done with this conversation. Call us. Let us know if you have a question, or possibly if you have a comment about what we're talking about. So the next topic is another big recruit, and this time again from Georgia. A lot of us have been talking about the fact that in order to become to play with the best, you have to recruit like the best. And we've had some SEC guys come into our neighborhood and start taking our players. It looks like Mr. Riley is taking a page from their playbook with Walter Mattews, the 4-star tight end from Hiram, Georgia. He's number 8 tight end in the 247's composite and 116 in the nation. Last Wednesday, he committed to the Trojans, and it's great news. One thing being is we have another great tight end. Good job, Coach Hansen. It just seems like we're becoming the place for tight ends. What do you think?
Yeah, it's another great recruiting win. You go down into the state of Georgia, and I believe he's like a top 15 player in the state of Georgia. As you mentioned, he's the number 8 tight end, 4-star. And Georgia's known for their tight ends. They've got some excellent tight ends. Obviously, they got their highly recruited or highly touted tight end is from Napa. He's from California. And his name is slipping me right now. Brock Bowers. There we go, Brock Bowers. So again, we're showing that we can go into SEC country, Georgia and Florida, and recruit these players. Not that USC hasn't been able to do that in the past. We had Josh Baby, we had EJ Price, but the previous staff couldn't develop these players. They could go in there. It's one thing to make the sale. It's another thing to service the account. And that's with coaching and development. And with Lincoln Riley staff, you can see it. Not only do all the coaches recruit, but they know how to develop. And here's an example of another tight end to go with Walker Lyons when he comes back from his mission. And obviously, we've got Deuce Robinson, and we've also got H-back, Cade Eldridge, that's going to be coming in this year.
Yeah, so just another big win for Riley and staff. I think anytime you can go into Kirby Smart's backyard and grab a quality player, it's just another feather in the cap, showing just how good this recruiting class is going. So again, make sure you guys are hitting that poll. Let us know what you think. Where do you think SC is going to finish? So that brings us around to the really big news. That's called the Golden Hour. Last year they did Golden Hour. They picked up a lot of recruits. This is the same theme again this year. It's where USC really goes all out, brings in a bunch of guys. There was a huge haul this time around, and there's one reason why I think that we're having a better closing rate than ever, and that would be the lady in the middle there, Annie Hansen, who is in charge of these huge recruiting weekends. She organizes a lot of the recruiting efforts at USC. Rick, I know we've talked a lot about her. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, now it's apparent. A lot of people, heard about the coaching staff, and they're bringing also Annie Hansen, the director of recruiting, and really, I think a lot of USC fans didn't even know what that was, because we really didn't have somebody like an Annie Hansen. And honestly, we probably didn't know what Annie Hansen did for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. I just remembered Oklahoma would recruit the pants off of USC when we had the previous staff here. But now it's come full circle how important this woman and her staff are. She basically executes. And this goes, I mean, what she builds up in cred, not only with the players, but the families and the experience, it's a memory. Trojans, you're out there, I want you to remember, put a little flashback for you. The first time, if you went to USC, the first time you stepped on that campus, your experience, the people that you met, the first time you went to a USC game, a tailgate, you remember those experiences. So for these recruits, like a Walter Mattews out of Georgia, that comes out to California with their parents, somebody like a Brian Jackson, the running back from McKinney, Texas, with his parents, very impressionable. And this is the woman that puts it all together. It's all part of Lincoln Riley's staff. Lincoln Riley knows how to multiply himself, not only with Annie Hansen, with the coaching staff, with all the people from Carol Foltz all the way down at the university. And that is why USC should be feared once again. And for those schools that want to go ahead and bash Lincoln Riley, continue to do so. We love it because we're just going to get a bigger laugh. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think they do it right. And you know, we have lots of evidence. You hear these family members. Jackson's mom posted, if you guys are on Twitter, just a lot of the events ending up that, you know, this morning. So yesterday, if I'm right, they went. So the first night they had like a luau, which like a, you know, over at Chateau Riley up there in Palos Verdes Estates. Then they went on a cruise yesterday, and I'll tell you what, the weather was perfect for it yesterday. They went on a cruise, and they finished up this morning going to Staples Center for a breakfast. And they've done that in the past before. It's just from moment to moment to moment, they show these young athletes and their families what it's like to be a part of the LA culture, what it's like being in, you know, one of the world cities like Los Angeles that it is, the weather, the amenities, everything that we have here to offer. But then the big part is they get them on campus and they show them and they have them talk to these even professors. They have them meet with academic staff. They see the whole thing. And one thing they also did is they dropped the big news. And then that big news was about the facilities that are coming in. And that's not a typo on the big, because we can thank you. A big gift wrap thank you to the Big Ten and the television contract money that we're going to be getting and the revenue we're getting directly from merging into the Big Ten. That is why these things we've been asking for and wondering about for a long time. Coaches for years have been wanting a football-only facility. In the past, they've been told to kick rocks. But now all of a sudden, when you start adding all this money, when you have the right leadership in place, when you have a coach with the clout, the gravitas that Lincoln Riley has to say, hey, I'm coming to USC, but here's some things I want. We clearly see that he got the recruiting staff. He got the support staff that he wanted. He got the analysts, right, that he wanted on both sides of the ball. And now we're starting to see the facilities. And all of this was talked about. And Mike Bone, I'm sure, was instrumental in all of this, putting the package together with Sosta and saying, hey, so here's a blank check. What do you want, Coach Riley? And this was the last piece of it. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see more, but it just seems like, Rick, they're unfolding thing after thing after thing. And you know that's why you have some coaches, maybe some GOAT coaches back east, talking about USC and USC always in their mouth.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at it. If you remember, Trojans, the Thursday before the spring game back in mid-April, what did we hear about? We heard about 3 new NIL collectives. And for the longest time, is what's USC doing with NIL? What are they doing with NIL? And boom, they dropped the bomb because it's perfect timing. This is also a tribute to not only Lincoln Riley and his staff, but the University Board of Trustees. They are in full alignment. Here's the example of full alignment. Then we have, it's because it's a stage. You have the spring game. It's the news is dropped. News services pick it up. The writers pick it up, and we have full momentum. What happens a week ago? They talk about the Big Ten schedule. It comes out on a Thursday. We have 2 very important recruits last weekend, Peyton Woodyard and KVA from St. John Bosco. And they bring in Troy Polamalu to help spread the word about USC, what his experience was like, transitioning in the NFL, and obviously an NFL Hall of Famer, a Polynesian rock star at USC. And then what happens this Thursday, Tim, as you got up on the screen? Facilities. We heard about that. That was promised back in November of 2021 when Lincoln Riley was hired. And we've been hearing about new facilities and how That's a major issue, and that was promised to Lincoln Riley. And so, boom, here you go. Here are the plans. If you can see up there, the McKay Center, that was built maybe, 12, 13 years ago? That probably will house all the other sports. But the new facility, as you see, just I guess would be on top of the tennis courts there. That's the new football-only facility, 3-story facility. It's going to have everything housed there: meeting rooms, nutrition, workout facilities, and they're going to shift and move flip the baseball field stadium around and push it towards Vermont Avenue. So again, full alignment and timing. This was announced 2 days before, as you'd mentioned, Tim, USC's biggest recruiting weekend, the Golden Hour 2.0.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing for you Trojan baseball fans. Look at the way Dato's been flipped around, almost like 90 degrees turned there, and I guess that's going to make a lot of the left-handed batters happy, because you're not hitting right into that wind that you usually see going over left field, that big poke. But then you have the tennis courts, and then far in the distance, you guys, if you're not familiar, that's Locher Stadium, the track field, right? And they've added, if you look, there's more fields, there's more space. It looks like they've added for the practice facilities. But then, yeah, that's going to be the new facility right there. I think we got a picture of it right here. Hold on.
Yeah, a second total football field. So we'll have two now. Yeah, so it's a angle from McClintock Avenue looking across.
And this is a football only facility, to my understanding. And yes, that's something that's been asked for a while. So we're gonna have the McKay Center for all the other athletes, but this is gonna be the showcase. You go to all the other big boys around, and that's what they have. They have either adjacent to their stadium or somewhere, they have a football only facility, something that has been missing at USC for quite a long time. And a lot of the negative recruiting that they've done in the past against USC, you won't get exposure. Well, now we're in the Big Ten, playing not in the middle of the night on the East Coast. We're playing on Fox on national coverage. We didn't have the facilities. Now we are absolutely going to be up there with anybody as far as facilities are concerned. So, and then development, another piece of the puzzle. Again, I think we're seeing more and more with Riley, and the guys are coming in with the coaches that are in place, that you actually now have, and you never heard this. I remember many people talking about the fact that you never hear about the coaches and coaches development. They always talk about other things when they talk about their visits to USC. Now you have kids saying Dante Williams is the best secondaries coach in the country. That's the second recruit I've heard say that. So there's a message out there now also saying, come to USC and you will get developed for the NFL. Okay. So moving on then. There's also, they're adding, this is earlier in the week, or the previous week, that also had the soccer stadium. We covered that last week, but just overall, the facilities upgrades have just been amazing. So then that leads us to a question. We know that Marcelles is on board. That came out first thing. That was his father's early Father's Day present to open up in the morning, that he was joining USC. But that leads us to who's next. So you guys in the chat, I've seen a couple of people, and I'm curious to hear from you guys. So who do you think's next? Go ahead and put in the chat. If you guys are watching this later on, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. We're always great to hear from you. We promise you that if you take the time to leave a comment in our comment section, I promise you, I personally will respond to you. So go ahead and leave us a comment in that comment section. Rick, if you had to guess right now, I know who we guessed the previous emojis are, but we got another one out today, at least one, I believe. Who do you think our next commit will be?
I think it's going to be an interior offensive lineman by the name of Jason Zandamela. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. He's out of Clearwater, Florida, and he has an interest in Miami, Florida State. He was a teammate, if you remember the name, Lucas Simmons last year, an offensive lineman from Clearwater that we lost out to, who went to Florida State. But from what I understand, the reports say that he was offered in late February because they were looking to see him develop. He's 6'2", 260, but I believe they're eyeing him as projecting as a center. So Jason has mentioned that he saw a lot of film on our previous center last year, Brett Nealon, and probably also looked at Jason Dietich. But yeah, he's got the size for a center. So excited about going into Florida, getting a 4-star player. But I think that's who it's going to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's where. So on Twitter today, I was kind of bouncing around looking at people who they thought would be the next person. There's a lot of people. You and I said we're on board, saying even before all these crystal balls really started swinging towards USC over a week ago, we were talking about Tatum being that guy. But right now he's up in Norman on a recruiting vacation. I should call it vacation. I know you do in Norman, but there was a lot of laughter going around the fact that during his official visit to the Sooners, he was actually crystal balled to commit to USC, which is a bit comical. And then one person was saying that they think he'll commit. You know, I don't think that he's actually going to come out and commit to USC while he's on an official visit in Norman. But I expect to hear, I think, pretty early, because he could be that vocal voice. He could be that centerpiece for this team, kind of like Marcelles is doing right now, and be that guy to be outspoken and get more recruits to come join the Trojans. So, but with you, I agree. I think that it's going to probably be, I really hope we are saying it, Zandamela or Zandamela. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he looks like the guy that everyone's turning, thinking I'm kind of feeling that as well. So big changes coming to NIL. Not necessarily. So the NCAA really has taken a step back at everything, and there's not a lot of rules. But there's another force coming in, which could also be, if things go to court and these things get kind of crazy when it comes to taxes, that's where some of these violations might come to a head. So, but Rick, you brought this to my attention earlier this week. Can you tell me a little more about what's going to be changing as far as the NCAA, NIL, and taxes?
Well, that's what we kind of alluded to in last week's show, that the IRS has said that there's about 80 NIL collectives that are 501(c) that are not for profit, and there could be donors that donate money that expect a tax write-off. That's not the case. That's not allowable by the IRS. So this week, NCAA President Charlie Baker is in agreement. There's a report that he's in agreement with the IRS's stance on nonprofit collectives and isn't ruling out more governance being issued on NIL. In a 12-page memo released on Friday, the IRS believes donations made to nonprofit NIL collectives are not tax exempt. That doesn't mean, however, that the IRS has to sign off on their activity. With more than 200 NIL collectives, as I mentioned, 80 have been deemed as nonprofit. So basically, Charlie Baker is echoing what the IRS said last week, and you're going to see these collectives probably move away from their model, most likely because now their donors can't write off their donations as tax deductible. And if you look at it, the IRS can pretty much query those they've already earmarked 80 NIL collectives. They can go ahead and request an audit if they wanted to, and all the donors that have donated to each of those collectives. So I think you're going to see some changing. Again, this is an ever-evolving space with college football that definitely needs some governance and some guardrails, so to speak.
Yeah. And this will be, I think, one way where they'll be able to do that. I'm sure it's going to hurt in the short term some of the NIL efforts, but I believe that the people that are going to be giving will be giving regardless of tax exempt status. Maybe not as much money, but they definitely do it. Speaking of the NCAA and good old Mr. Baker, it's now been 4,652 days since you stole Reggie Bush. Well, not you personally, but your organization stole Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy back. Save yourself the trouble, save yourself the embarrassment, be part of the answer, not continue the problem. And with that, you guys, it leads us into our post-game wrap-up. We have a lot on the table, not that much, but we are not getting many phone calls. We anticipate some phone calls from you guys. So unless we get some phone calls in here pretty quick, I think we're just going to wrap up the questions and go from there. Rick, do you have anything else to add about the weekend, the facilities, or anything else?
Well, I think this would be a good time. We're talking about recruiting, Tim, and USC is doing an outstanding job about recruiting, and they're giving their pitch, they're giving their spiel. about playing at USC, what your life is going to be like in terms of academics after football, getting you ready for the NFL. Taylor Mays made a presentation. They also had a dinner at the Coliseum last night, and presentations were made by Taylor Mays on how USC is going to prepare you for the NFL. And Chris Carter made a compelling presentation about getting you ready for life after football with a USC degree and the opportunities that are out there. So I think we've talked about it before. We want to recruit you, the Trojan family. If you like the content we're providing you on the Trojan Conquest Live, please hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification to get our updates, and send it out to families and friends, because we have a goal. You know, USC wants to get these. They're throwing out the emojis, and they want to get commits. We need more Trojan Conquest, USC Voice of College Football subscribers. We want to get to 4,000 viewers, 4,000 subscribers by the end of June. I think, where are we at right now, Tim? About 3,500, just under 3,500. We need 500 more. So we look for you, the Trojan family, to help us out. Check out the content that we've been providing. Anthony Munoz. We had the drum major, Jacobo Herrera, during the season. And we have some more guests come August that we're working on. And I'm sure you'll be excited to tune in and see what they have to say as we get into fall camp.
Speaking of Trojan family, we'll bring in our very own member of the Trojan family, Tony Altimore, who joins us during the regular season for our USC postgame shows that we do every I guess we'd say night, but every day after the football game concludes. Tony, how you doing?
Hey, great guys. How exciting is this huge facilities upgrade? This is awesome.
Just amazing. Just amazing. Stuff that's been talked about for a long time. And finally, I think we have the budget to go for it.
It's going to be great. So and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure. It looks like we're going to build a whole new baseball stadium directly on Vermont Avenue. Completely new baseball stadium. Looks like a whole like a baseball operations building of some kind or something attached to it.
Yes.
And then the tennis stadium, it looks like, is going to stay. The practice field on top of the old baseball stadium, the turf field, then keep the grass field. And then the whole new football building is on top of there's a little theater over there. If you guys remember, it was like from the theater school. I think they have all new facilities, so probably they don't need that anymore. And then the Kennedy Field will be the new football building. But the other really cool thing about that is the McKay Center will then free up all kinds of space for the rest of the athletic department.
Absolutely. And then the football players don't have to cross McClintock to get to Brian Kennedy Field. I don't know if during spring practice, there's a shot of Kion Bars, who's a defensive lineman,
dodging cars
from Arizona, that almost got hit by somebody on a moped. Luckily, he had quick feet. But yeah, so they can go right from the facility onto the field. They don't have to cross McClintock.
And hold on, we have a super chat. Thank you, USCJ. Happy Father's Day. I'll give a happy Father's Day to my dad. I'll give a happy Father's Day to the two dads on the screen. And I'll give a happy Father's Day to my two daddies of the week, Carol Folt and Annie Hansen.
Yeah, making it happen. And then USCJ, thank you for continuing to support the show. If you guys aren't following USCJ on his YouTube channel, or especially on Twitter, he is on top of it. The second anything breaks USC related, you will get up to the moment information from him, as well as he is absolutely tapped in. The way he puts his videos out right when the news happens is because he is in communication and he has a lot of connections. So please, you guys check him out and you guys won't be sorry.
USCJ, happy Father's Day, buddy. Hey, on Wednesday morning, I was getting my cup of coffee and I see an update from USCJ about Walter Mattews. And I was like, what? It was like 6 a.m. And then boom, I look at the news and the news starts breaking. But USCJ had it first. I'm enjoying my cup of Joe. And with USCJ breaking down, the recent commit with Walter Mattews. So, yeah, what Tim said. Follow USCJ. He's a G. USCJ is a G.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but he didn't give me a name, but he told me, he told me the night before about 10 p.m. Hey, watch what's happening in the morning. And sure enough, I wasn't surprised.
It's going to be great. But, guys, this was a big week for USC football. It's kind of cool. So you guys don't know this probably. When I was in undergrad, I was actually on a committee. We worked on like the 30-year master plan for the school. And the crazy thing about it is like what it takes for USC to build things is ridiculous. Like, because you have to find temporary space to construct, to move somebody into something, to move somebody into there, to move somebody out of where you're going to build your new thing. Not to mention just all the hassle of building things in LA versus like Oregon. They can say like, hey, you know what? In fact, there's actually a whole theory of university campus design called the Oregon experiment that's based on not planning for anything and just doing stuff just kind of randomly, which you can do when you're in the woods. We can't do that. And so like I was bowled over by the amount of planning that had to go into what we're going to do. And it's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Like for instance, McAllister Field, I guess it's been in existence now for 25 years, but that used to be Troy East parking lot. That's where I used to park. I lived in Troy Hall and Troy East. And that's
where
there
were tennis courts. So
yeah.
The one thing I noticed, so we are losing the student tennis courts. That's the new baseball stadium is on top of the student tennis courts. I'm sure they'll show up somewhere, maybe over in USC Village or something.
Yeah, they'll probably pop. You're right.
They'll
probably pop across the street somewhere.
So there's the new women's soccer and lacrosse stadium, and if you see the far bleachers that are there, the ones not with the umbrella, but the far bleachers, that used to be the I believe it was the Lambda Chi house was right there. That was the Lambda Chi house. Yeah,
that was the Lambda Chi house.
And I used to skateboard or ride my bike down that walkway to get to campus, which paralleled Hoover.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys, and I mean, I haven't seen the architectural drawings. These sketches of that field, like, I think it's going to be a lot tighter than it feels in those sketches.
Yes, it's going to be tighter. Yeah,
it's going to be real tight. But that's the thing about LA. So it's going to be cool. I love that they're putting in all these sky decks and like entertaining spaces. I mean, that kind of stuff is going to be cool. It's going to be good for student life. It's going to be good for events. It's going to be in for all kinds of stuff.
Okay, well, I better address this really quickly. So, D-Arc Irish, thank you again for continued support. One of the best Irish fans around. Heard Bosco's on your watch list for not sending out info on USC recruits from that school. Would you be able to elaborate? Okay, so it's not the school. It has nothing to do with coaches or anything like that. I just kind of try to send a message to whoever's running their Twitter over there, just saying to them, hey, we had a couple really great Braves on official visits last weekend. I heard absolutely nothing, but I saw some tweets out about Marcelles Williams being at Oklahoma, and then just now on Friday there were two tweets went out about Kyngstonn Viliamu-Asa being in Notre Dame, not one but two. So I sent him a tweet out saying, hey, are we to get any information about these Braves or they're visiting USC? And they kind of said, well, we don't play favorites, etc. Blah, but nothing at all. And so then I decided I was just going to tweet it out, maybe asking, sending out information about them, about the Braves for them. I'm glad to say that today they went over the top with Marcelles Williams, greatly earned, and they are out there backing their Braves and talking about him making a commitment to the Trojans. So it's not like they're on a watch list. It's just I just kind of took umbrage to the fact that we got some great Braves. You guys don't know I'm a Bosco alum, and I want these kids who bust their butts to get the praise they deserve when they pick up offers from great schools like Notre Dame and USC. And so the fact that it wasn't happening, that was really what it's all about, D-Rock. But I'm surprised you noticed that. So, Tony, another thing about this, the facilities-wise, you talked about it, the fact that it's not just the football only. What do you think the overall effect's going to be having all these new facilities for the other, what they like to call the non-revenue sports, but the other schools, the Olympic events?
Well, so track, all the track and field stuff have just gotten like phenomenal, like world-class new facilities. They built up that whole those buildings around the track, all kinds of stuff. Like the way they did it, like in that curved building, is really kind of cool. So, the track and field are good. This is going to take care of soccer and lacrosse. Baseball's all set. Basketball already has great facilities. They could, I'm sure they can periodically renovating and stuff like that. But I mean, when they built the Galen Center, it was state of the art. So it's not hard to update. Certainly no difference space wise for baseball or basketball and volleyball. I'm trying to think of others. Crew has a little bit of challenges because they're far away. We don't have a golf course on campus, but I think golf is getting something. I think I read golf is getting new practice stuff as well. I don't know where they do that somewhere, but overall they're doing stuff for everybody. And the creation of new square footage by moving football out of the McKay Center is just, I think, going to be monstrous.
Yeah, and this basically shows the full integration. Carol Folt, the board of trustees, and all the people that are working tirelessly to, as you mentioned, Tony, having to develop these concepts, get the permitting, show how they're going to, construction guidelines, raising the money. Exactly.
Well, so, and part of the other thing too, so USC will probably not feel this as much, but there is a massive crisis coming in 2 years in higher education. Do you guys know about how the enrollment cliff works?
No idea.
Okay, yeah, so they mentioned it on previous show on Mark Rogers, the voice of college football.
Yeah, there's a massive crisis coming that is going to devastate a lot of colleges. A lot of colleges are going to close. A lot of them are going to shut down. They're going to close sports. They're going to do all kinds of stuff. So when the 2008 recession hit, people stopped having kids for a couple years. The U.S. birth rate plunged. So those kids who weren't born are supposed to start going to college in 2025. But they weren't born. So the college population in the U.S. has a giant dip. So USC is twice the size it was when we were all there, or at least 60, 70% bigger. So USC, for example, USC's selectivity, UCLA selectivity and stuff will go down, but as we have all grown, there's all of these big schools and big money schools have been pulling in more students. So there's already strain kind of down the line. And as a result, some of these other schools are going to be just in dire straits. So it's smart for USC to do this stuff now while there's money to do it. Because the whole higher ed world is going to face a lot of squeezes in the next 2 years. Sorry, not to be a bummer.
Well, it's a good thing. And again, that Big Ten money ain't going to hurt much, right?
No, the Big Ten money is going to take care of all kinds of stuff. But the other thing is it's putting us on par with a lot of the other Big Ten schools because they all have a lot of this stuff. And the other thing too is 11 of the Big Ten schools are land grants, I think. So they all have space. And when schools like Michigan complain that they don't have space, they don't understand what it means for USC and UCLA to not have space. You could also put Berkeley in that category and some others that, unlike Stanford, we're not built on a farm. Although we actually were originally a mustard farm in the 1800s, but we don't have that kind of space to just build stuff. So it's great that we're doing it. It took a lot of planning, and it's going to be just spectacular, I think, for tons of our sports.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, the only thing is I would love to see us so we can't add softball, right? Because we don't have a softball field. We have nowhere to put a softball field. I wish we could add, men's lacrosse or some other stuff, but I would doubt we add any sports in the near future. I could be wrong.
We're joining the Big Ten. What are the odds of us getting a hockey team beyond the club? I know USC's had a club hockey team for years and years and years. Have you heard anything on that?
No, I haven't heard anything. I can't imagine we would do that.
Right.
Well,
hockey is terribly expensive, and we don't have a rink.
I'll tell you something we can do. I mean, I've been waiting for it for 30 years, and it's a simple ad. The only question is, will Title IX at USC allow us a men's sport without adding a women's? I think so
No.
because, well, no, I think we have an unequal number of women's sports.
Yeah, but that's the
Teams.
offset football.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Simple ad, wrestling. Big Ten is all about wrestling. Wrestling would happen at the Galen Center. You know, the Big Ten has Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa. I mean, come on. Iowa
I
is
would think we would lean towards men's lacrosse first, but we could.
Well, I don't know. I think lacrosse is
or men's soccer.
I don't think lacrosse is as big in the Big Ten. Big Ten is about wrestling. And if USC really wanted to, and really there's an opportunity here because there's only a few schools that wrestle on the West Coast. But my question is, with all the new facilities, that's also a closing opportunity now that USC has another arrow in its quiver. Guys, Tim, I'll start with you. And I'd like to hear from the chat. There was 14 official visits this weekend. We already had 2 commits that were on this visit, but out of the 14, how many guys do you think are we going to get to commit? Keep in mind that 2 weeks ago, we had 7 commits of the 12 visits and counting. Taylor Tatum was on that visit 2 weeks ago. There's, like you mentioned, Tim, a crystal ball from 24/7 Sports saying that he is going to commit to USC. But here are the names, guys, in the chat. And Tim, we have Marcelles already committed. There was 5-star Mikey Mattews from Parkview High School out of Georgia that was here. 4-star wide receiver Draylon Miller, a wide receiver from Texas. 4-star wide receiver Ryan Pelham from Millikan High School in California. 4-star interior offensive lineman Makai Sena out of Texas. We talked about Zandamela, Jason Zandamela, who is crystal balled. Also, keep your eye on the number 1 JC cornerback, Sione Lale. I think I'm pronouncing his name, Sione Lale, 6'4", 185-pound cornerback out of San Mateo. Hearing a lot of news that this is a guy that USC will sign. Hopefully, gets a commit. There was 4-star edge Marquise Lightfoot out of Illinois. 4-star edge Darian Mayo out of Good Counsel High School, Maryland. And 4-star edge Jalen Harvey, also out of Maryland. 4-star linebacker Ty Anthony Smith out of Texas. And 4-star safety Marquise Gallegos out of Chaminade High School here in California. So I know I rattled off a lot of names. Tim, who are the guys you think that we're going to get?
Wow. I don't know who we're going to get from that group. I've heard a lot of things, some things I'm not really supposed to say, but I will say this. USC has a lot of options. And you brought up Mikey Matthews, someone I was trying to look for just now in the chat with Mike Matthews. Again, wow, go in and pick up the number 3 receiver, number 10 overall. Yet another person from Georgia. I think that's going to be a tough pull. I think he's going to be in Tennessee next weekend. But he's in that model of that Lincoln Riley receiver. I think he's like a 6 foot, right? 185-pound receiver, speed. I think we got an outside shot. Again, we're going up against Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, all the big boys, and for this one, and pulling someone all the way across the country. That might be a tall ask. But I like a wide receiver, Draylon Miller. I think he's a very, very strong possibility. He's also in that same, a little bit taller, a little bit bigger from Texas. So I look to see probably the next one, I think. And then you have Ryan Pelham, a local guy from Long Beach. So I don't know which one of those guys would go. It's too hard. There's too many moving pieces. I think there's a pecking order of this. I think maybe even the recruits might know that pecking order. I'm personally not going to say anything because I'm definitely not in the coach's ears. I don't know who their priorities are, but the spots are filling up, and I think it's going to come down to maybe priority, but also, who commits, because a lot of these kids have an opportunity to join USC. I know they wowed a lot of them. Some of them are still taking other visits. So at this point, it's too hard to tell. I think we're going to get at least 4 or 5 though. If I had to guess randomly, I'm going to say 4 or 5.
It's a pretty impressive list. 9 of the 14 visitors are ranked in the 247 Sports Composite top 300 players. So very target-rich environment, to say the least. And all we know is that USC, by all reports, put on a phenomenal recruiting weekend for not only recruits but their parents. And I don't know if you showed it earlier, but I think there was pictures on social media of Marcelles, Williams, and some of the other players with the new Big Ten patch on the jerseys. So looks pretty sharp. So we got the Big Ten momentum, the schedule that came out that they're going to be playing, the new facilities, NIL. USC is rocking and rolling.
And we're about to host the world for the Olympics.
That's right.
Speaking of Olympics, real quick, and I don't know if you guys have heard anything or not. Are they not putting the pool on top of Dado Field anymore?
That's a good question, because that was originally the plan before these plans came out. So I don't know.
These plans don't look like they are going to have a pool on top of them anytime soon.
Well, you guys, they're flipping Dado. So that might mean that there's a temporary, because whatever was going to happen for the Olympics, it was going to be a temporary thing, right?
Yeah. Well,
right,
the whole thing with the Olympics actually was that essentially that they were going to completely rebuild Dado Field and everything around it while putting a pool in the middle of it temporarily.
So, I mean, that still might be on the table, right? And so temporarily they could do that.
Well, then that means we're not talking until 2029 for Dado Field.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. So yeah, there's so yeah, forget about that. Well, I mean,
because another thing nobody's talked about, I believe we will have to play the 2028 season at SoFi.
Oh, because of the Olympics, yeah.
Because they're putting a 20-foot raised track platform in the middle of the Coliseum that will take something like 6 months to build and 6 months to take out.
That's not a bad alternative, though.
No, I mean, it's fine. It's great. Like, it's actually kind of cool. You know, it'll be like, I don't know, staying at your grandma's house for a couple weeks.
As wonderful as it is to play in NFL stadiums, there's just nothing like the Coliseum. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to pick one, why not go to a state-of-the-art facility? Joe Boyd, Kyngstonn, I think, is a must-get for USC. I totally agree. That might be some of my St. John Bosco bias, but this guy is amazing. Yeah. Rick and I were talking about the lack of defensive linemen. I also think that we're going to be getting some. You guys hang on. I think we're going to get some pretty good surprises on the defensive line situation. But let's just say that we don't.
It's gonna be. Hey, I gotta run really quick, guys. It was fun. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony.
Right,
Thanks for joining us.
Stopping in. Good seeing you.
So yeah, really quickly, guys. So if I get in before I start talking about the linebackers again, really quick, go ahead and give us a call, you guys. If you have a question, don't be shy. They got the phone line. Also, I dropped a link for the just like Tony just joined us on StreamYard. Come on in. We'll be wrapping up pretty soon. But going back to what I was saying about Kyngstonn, I absolutely think we need to get this guy. But the level of linebacker that we keep pulling in, I mean, when you're talking about the guys that we are, that we got, Mason Cobb coming in, and then after that, you worry about who is going to be your linebackers going forward. And going forward, it looks really great as far as it goes on linebacker because we just brought in Tackett Curtis. Everyone's excited. I think everyone's gonna be surprised with Garrison Madden. And Rajon Davis could be with us for a couple of years. Gentry as well. All these guys are getting healthy. But there's a story that you've heard. I've heard it kicked around a couple of times. That not only is you have the effect of I'm blanking on his name, the receiver from Texas, that I think that Draylon Miller. But there's a guy also close to him, and I don't know how authentic the story is, but they're saying that Tyanthony Smith, 6'1", 205 from Jasper, is a linebacker. He's also given some looks at USC, probably not the strongest, but people were saying that if we're able to land Draylon Miller, which I think we have a really good shot at doing, they might come together. So linebacker, yes. I mean, Kyngstonn, please come. I mean, that would be an absolute coup. But there's gonna be lots of options, you guys. When Rick asked this question, which will these guys do I think is going to commit? I think there's a lot of offers out there. I think there's some commits out there that have been whispers about the fact there's some silent commits out there that we don't even know about. And I think a lot of players are waiting to see how these positions get filled. So I would love to have all these guys. They brought some quality talent in this week. I think it's going to come down to, again, who's already committed, who is going to commit. And a lot of these might even come down to signing day.
And there's another linebacker you got to keep your eye on. He had an unofficial visit earlier in the week. His name is Chris Cole out of Virginia. and he's going to be taking an official visit sometime during the season. But he has looks from a number of different schools, including Penn State. But that's another guy to keep an eye on. So, in addition, the fourth St. John Bosco guy that I earlier on the show I forgot, Lockhart. Yeah, Jordan Lockhart, another linebacker, top player in California. So there's a lot of options out there. Bottom line is right now USC is, depending on the service that you look at, they're number 12, I think, in 247 Sports Composite, number 10, and we in the on 3. So we're cracking the top 10, and that's with 11 commits. You can see all the targets that are out there. A bunch of 4-star guys. USC really has the potential to finish in the top 5.
And how quickly we forget, Rick?
What's that?
It wasn't. I mean, I forgot all about Newbie. Coming all the way from Connecticut. So there's another solid 4-star linebacker coming in. So you guys, I'm not downplaying the need that we need to get Viliamu-Asa. I am. Believe me, this guy is a difference maker. But the guys that we have in place right now, and the guys that are in play right now, the one thing I don't think we have to worry about is there's a big question mark about USC moving into the Big Ten. Well, if you look at these linebackers we're getting, these are not small people. And along with who I think we have a very good chance at, a couple of really elite defensive linemen to go along with what we've already stacked up. I think that worry about heading to the Big Ten and worry about the Michigans of the world running all over us might be going away. Well,
let me tell you, the one concern I have, and it's not all, 24/7, hey, sunshine pumping here. I'm concerned about the defensive line. I want to see guys that are 6'2", 305 pounds that put their hand in the dirt and going to bring bad intentions. I just don't see that right now. But I'm not going to question Lincoln Riley, his staff, and a plan. I know they've got some plan put together. They have the coaching with Sean Nua. The development's there. That's why I think Kyngstonn, Viliamu-Asa is an important linchpin. If we get him and somehow they flip Peyton Woodyard, then it's on. And I think that will open the eyes of a lot of defensive linemen out there. And we will close with the defensive linemen. I'm hoping that. But if you look at everything Lincoln Riley's done since he stepped foot in LA, it's been planned. It's been calculated. And you can look at it from everything that's happened. It's pretty phenomenal. So, but that's the one concern I have. I want to see it. Yeah, we're signing some edge guys, but I want to see a Sean Cody. I want to see a guy with junk in the trunk that can bring it, because we need that. We need run stoppers, and we need to basically push, go after the quarterback, and let everybody else fly and create havoc. And we just don't have that right now. But you know what? Gives you something to work on.
Well, I like the fact that you brought up Sean Cody, because if you go all the way back to Pete Carroll's first recruiting class, he brought in Sean Cody. Everyone thought he was going to Notre Dame. Even his dad thought he was going to Notre Dame. If you hear the story that Coach O tells, right? But I think we have a real gem in Nua, and he's shown that he can develop and send players at Michigan as well as at USC. And I do think he's going to turn heads with the guys this year. I think Corey Foreman is going to make a huge jump up. He's really the guy I'm pulling for this year, and make his way into the NFL draft. That's going to be just one more feather in Nua's cap to show it. And we do. I mean, granted, I think a lot of the talking heads for the national recruiting tell us that we're not in a position to get Houston. We're not in a position to get Breland. But there's guys like Jericho Johnson. There's a lot of options for USC on defensive line. And if we were to nail one or two of these guys, and I think we have a shot with some of them. I mean, what you guys have to realize is what we're trying to show you in all these facility upgrades, all the coaching upgrades we've had here, moving into the Big Ten, all that exposure, all of the negative recruiting stories that all these schools had against USC for years are now gone. And the fact that they are going for top 10, top 20 defensive linemen, it shows you the caliber of this coaching staff. It shows you the facilities. It shows you the vision and the alignment that was talked about during the hiring conference for Lincoln Riley. It shows you where this team's at. I remember we would get, I think what was it, a top 4, top 5 class under Clay Helton. But those were, again, all wide receivers and safeties and running backs and quarterbacks, things you're always going to get here in Southern California. By going into Connecticut to get newbie, and showing that we can go into Georgia and into Florida and grab guys. The reach for Lincoln Riley is just amazing. When we're recruiting on a national level is when we win national championships, you guys. And Rick talked about it a little bit earlier. If you guys would just take a minute, if anything at all today you found it entertaining, had you laughing, you got some new information, please just take 1 second to hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps out the show. We are trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the month. We really appreciate all of you guys being here. Without you guys, it would be Rick and I talking. And believe me, it would be Rick and I talking either through text message or on the phone, because we just live and die USC football. So if you do want to see us get maybe we had Anthony Munoz on. We're trying to line up a couple of high school coaches. I think will be very interesting for you guys to hear from. We need to get our subscriber count up. Gives you a little more clout in the world, and we'd appreciate any efforts you guys have if you've enjoyed the show so far. So Rick, big weekend for USC. Did you have anything that you want to talk about left on the docket? I think we left it all out there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of change happening. It's great change, and a lot of big things happening. I think the one thing that Lincoln Riley is really doing, and we didn't bring it up, but look what they're doing in Texas. So this is very strategic. Look at what USC is doing, because Oklahoma and Texas are going to the SEC, and you take a look at recruiting. Recruiting is going to be changing in the next couple of years for a number of different reasons. The transfer portal, NIL, and then you have this realignment. And it's great that Lincoln Riley has the name. He's recruited, him and his staff, while they're at Oklahoma, recruited Texas. There's a familiarity. And you have a running backs coach like Kyle McDonald. My God. I think he's brought in 4 recruits, or actually 3. But if you get Taylor Tatum, that would be 4. And, we got the transfer from TCU, Darwin Barlow. So there's 5 running backs from Texas. And Kyle McDonald was working Texas when he was at Utah. So that was a great hire by Lincoln Riley. And to see what he's doing in Georgia, Florida, in the DMV, continue to farm that. And he's doing a great job in California, keeping the talent here. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, there's 11 guys from Mater Dei and St. John Bosco. Just chill, okay? Baker was never going to come here. And he said as much. If you saw, he released his top 10 during the week. And it was basically, he gave the Heisman to USC. Oh, you're not in my top 10. Well, good. Good luck in Oregon, all right? We weren't going to get Elijah Brown from Mater Dei. If you thought we were, well then, hey, that's your little world you're living in. He's going to Stanford. No big deal. All right. Xavier Brown's in play. Aiden Breland. Let's see what we can do with Aiden Breland. But for St. John Bosco, the last St. John Bosco, put it in the chat real quick. Who was the last commit from St. John Bosco? See if you remember and name the year. But I'll continue.
USC? That's too easy for me.
Okay, go ahead. Well, hold on.
We'll let the chat go.
Yeah, go ahead. Put it in the chat. Who was the last commit and what year from St. John Bosco? I don't know what the deal is with St. John Bosco. They're the number 1 team in the country. They are literally 20 miles, if not less, from USC. I'm not a St. John Bosco alum, all right? But I understand the Trinity.
Sorry, Rick. We all can't be. It's okay.
Hey, that's okay. That's fine. I'm glad you are. And I'd love for you to, and you're doing a great job by throwing questions out there with St. John Bosco. I don't understand why they don't have a relationship or a better relationship with USC. Hey, I understand there's a previous coaching staff, but the 2022, 2023, and now 2024 class, finally, come on now. Really? But, hey, I'm not a sports writer, and that's the beautiful thing about our show. We're fans. So why can't we question? What's up, St. John Bosco Braves? Come on. You got great talent here. Look at what's going on at USC. Are you under a rock? I mean, it's phenomenal. The best education out here in the West Coast. All right? NFL, talent, Heismans, All-Americans. And, we'll go to Louisville. Well, you know what? That's short-term money. And I think things are going to start to change because they're going to see that USC's got it dialed in. So we'll have to check it out. But if you look at the top 25 players in California, USC is getting the right players. And Marcellus Williams is definitely one. There'll be others.
Yeah, well, so I had a really great and very brief exchange with Darnell Lacey. You guys might remember him. He was a safety here at USC back in the 90s under Paul Hackett. He's a secondaries coach at St. John Bosco right now. And he didn't go into too much detail, but he basically said that what Lincoln Riley, and Dante Williams and the coaching staff are doing, they're repairing some bridges that a lot of us USC fans were absolutely complaining about. The fact that the lack of recruiting, the connection to the local high schools was deteriorating under the last coaching staff. And he basically intimated to me that a lot of those issues are being slowly repaired by Lincoln Riley and his staff. And he pretty much said to me, just watch, you're going to see. So let's just sit back and see. And I, fight on Darnell Lacey out there somewhere, coaching for the Braves and obviously a Trojan. So appreciate the information you sharing that with me. But as far as, so did anyone get that? Did anyone get the last Brave to be picked up by, did we see that in the chat?
Check it out.
So the last couple didn't work out for us.
Who was the last one, Tim?
So Big Max Gibbs, if you guys remember Big Max Gibbs, he came over from Bosco, the offensive lineman. And before him, you had Cody Pepe, right? Yep. Cody Pepe, he came over. But we did have Chris Steele came over, cornerback. You got to remember Chris Steele played at USC, great starter, awesome player, amazing player at St. John Bosco and at USC. I had someone come at me, and not in a bad way, but talking about, that the Bosco players, haven't been great in college, etc. I said, really define great, because there's plenty of Bosco Braves starting on FBS teams across the country. You got Trent McDuffie recently and now in the NFL. So there are the players there at Bosco. What Jason Negro is doing, they're on the upswing. They're going to continue to get better and better. And the one thing I do know is that Mater Dei and St. John Bosco are getting the best players in Southern California. And so having pipelines at both these schools is integral to USC success. Sure, Lincoln Riley's going across the country and picking up guys from all over that we need. But what we really need is our backyard, and they need to defend our backyard. And that starts with St. John Bosco and Mater Dei. So anybody out there thinking that we can do this without the support of those two schools, I would really question what you're thinking.
Yeah. And, we may only get one recruit from Mater Dei this year, which is fine, because Nate Frazier, he's a great running back. But if we get Taylor Tatum, we'll be set at running back. And so obviously, staff's not going to take 3 running backs. It's kind of a devalued position across the board, not only in college, but in the NFL. So you got to look at it that way. If they have a feeling that, hey, we're going to go with Taylor Tatum because he fits what we're looking to do with Brian Jackson, and you look at who they got last year with Marion Peterson and Quentin Joyner, and we were at the spring game, Tim, those guys are phenomenal. They're going to be fantastic. And so, hey, you only can take so many players, and sometimes the players that are at a Mater Dei and are St. John Bosco, yeah, you want to get them. You want to get them all, but you're not. But the benefit is that Lincoln Riley and the staff are developing those other pipelines, like we mentioned, to Texas, to Georgia, Florida, the DMV. So it's not 100% reliant or 60% reliant, any ridiculous number, on Southern California and California.
We will agree to disagree. I think that we do need to lock down Southern California and pick up just a couple. I think our bread and butter should be here in Southern California. There is enough talent to do that.
I agree, but it's like semantics. When people say lock down Southern California, there's a certain percentage, and I think Tim, that think that we need to get everybody. Well, why didn't we get Julian?
It's literally impossible.
That's what I'm saying.
Think about this, you guys. Whenever you guys only got 4 of the top 10 in California. Well, how many of those top 10 were quarterbacks and wide receivers? You could only take so many quarterbacks and wide receivers. That's why we got into it last year with people. And then also you have to remember, not everybody grew up a Trojan. Some of these kids grew up with family and friends that were big time, AA Eugene fans or Ohio State fan. So you have to realize that, sometimes USC has to overcome some of those childhood favorites. But I think now that we're starting to hear these kids who USC was their childhood favorite were a lock for. The sad thing was that our previous coaches, we had a situation where kids would always say, oh, that was my dream school. And then they go off to another school. I mean, how many times do we hear that, Trojan fans? Now you're hearing they're my dream school. And you look at Marcelles Williams and you look at his, by the way, if you guys have not checked that out, wherever you can find it on Twitter, you can find it probably on Instagram. Go watch his video. It is emotionally moving just to see a kid, his dream, it all come together. I really think that we're going to see more and more of those videos instead of guys saying, well, yeah, USC was my dream school, and then they pick up a hat for the Buckeyes, right? We're not going to see that anymore. Not with this staff, not the way they're working. And what Darnell Lacey said, I mean, he said they're there and they're putting the work in. And I think the work that we're doing here in Southern California, and remember this, Lincoln Riley, when he was at Oklahoma, wasn't pulling a lot of his recruiting from Oklahoma. It was from Texas. And if you guys think that this is on accident, we're seeing tons of Texas recruiting coming through USC. Texas is up there with, Texas is probably number one. And then you have Georgia, Florida, and California. These are the biggest recruiting states in the country. And Lincoln Riley, for the better part of 6-7 years, has shown us that he can come into California when he's in Oklahoma. He can go into Texas and pull the best players from both those states. I don't think that's stopping. I think with the evolution of recruiting and the way the demographics are moving, I think a lot of people are going into Arizona and into Nevada. We're seeing our recruiting happening there. I'd like to step up a little more in Arizona again. So I think USC recruiting is to be fine. Then on top of that, you say we're going into Georgia and picking up multiple recruits right in the back of the national champions. That shows you the recruiting power this team has.
Well, speaking of recruiting and going into different states, it's going to be interesting. We mentioned that 5-star Mikey Mattews from Parkview, Georgia, was out here. There was a 7-on-7 finals earlier in the week. There's also the Elite 11 finals in Southern California. A lot of big things happening. But Tennessee, Clemson, and USC are reported the 3 schools that are after Mattews. But how about a Lincoln Riley on Garrett Riley recruiting battle? Going after that's something crazy. Brother on brother going for a wide receiver. Let's see who gets them.
Yeah, and then did USC? Thank you, Joe Boyd, for the comment. Did USC make the players mad at Mater Dei? I think this goes into what Rick was talking about a little before. You have guys. Baker's brother played at Oregon. And not everybody, we have to remember, not every, USC is not the school for everyone. It has nothing about USC. I mean, can you imagine if you're in a position that you're not getting picked up but I'm gonna go play quarterback at Stanford. Look, if you go play, no one's going to tell someone not to go to Stanford. It's just crazy. So there are other options. I bleed Cardinal and gold, but I'm also not myopic enough to realize that there are great opportunities for kids across the country. I think we're going to get our share. I think Mater Dei this year, I wonder, now this is something going forward. Bruce Rawlinson, USC alum, was the longtime head coach over there at Mater Dei. And clearly I'm not saying that he was steering players to USC, but it sure as heck didn't hurt that we had a Trojan alum as a head coach over at Mater Dei. And the pipeline we've gotten from Mater Dei over the decades shows as much. I wonder what the staff's relationship is going to be with Mater Dei going forward. I would assume, however, the quality of coaches we have, the quality of recruiters that we have, the staff that they put together, support staff they put together, I wouldn't worry about it, Trojans. I think we're going to be fine. I think a couple of these guys might, we're supposed to talk about Xavier Brown. There's been some hints about Xavier Brown possibly being a lean towards USC. So let's just see how the rest of the season plays out. And let's hope we can flip a Breland. But I think we're starting to show that if we don't get Breland, who I absolutely would love to have, there are other options out there. The idea that, oh man, listen, we don't get a lot of defensive tackles like him or defensive linemen like him every day. When we have that opportunity, we have to. He's a must get. Well, I think we're starting to see now that no, he's not a must get. I don't think anybody, quite frankly, at this point is a must get for USC. And I think we need to get that through our heads. I think we're playing from maybe a year ago or 2 years ago with recruiting. Our recruiting is back to where it was back in the Pete Carroll years, I believe. Oh, look at this. We got a phone call. Welcome to the show.
4 big guys, and they grab my thighs, blow my guys like the 4th of July. If they
Okay, maybe we don't have a call. So that was interesting. So very creative, very juvenile, but very creative. Thank you for stopping by. Rick, anything else for us? Because I think we can't go any lower than we just had right now.
Well, congratulations to Lincoln Riley and staff for putting on a great Golden Hour 2.0 recruiting weekend. We'll have to wait and see. Some of these recruits have scheduled announcements. I think Marquise Gallegos is the first one up on June 27th is when he is going to officially commit. Draylon Miller on June 29th. Also on I think 6-4 on July 4th, Jalen Harvey, the 4-star edge out of Quince Orchard High School, is gonna have a scheduled commit, and then Lockhart as well. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. And but it's great to see USC got a bunch of high 4-star targets out there, and we'll see some positive trends moving forward.
Well, and speaking of positivity and positive trends, so last year, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, where did they finish up as far as the high school recruiting? I think they ended up at 8. Does that sound right?
I think 7 or 8 in the 247. Yeah.
Okay, we got 2 calls. Actually, one's on through StreamYard, and one's on the telephone. So let's grab this first one on the telephone real quick.
All right.
Hi, you're on with Tim and Rick. How are you doing? Can you hear us okay? Okay. Sorry if that's on my end. I do apologize, but do try calling back. And then we have someone here on the joining us on StreamYard.
I like to shoot balls in my muffin.
Yeah, there we go. So we got the children out this hour. Well, again, there's a lot of positivity out there, and we end up where we end up last time, Rick?
I think it was 7 or 8 with 247 Sports.
Okay, so 7 or 8. Majority of people are saying that we're going to end up between 4 and 7. And 53% of the response for our poll. The poll was, where does USC finish nationally in the high school recruiting rankings? 53% of you said between 4 and 7. Second place was 22% at first to third. And then we have 18% of you saying that we'll finish up between 8 and 11. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Great showing as always, almost as great as the showing that USC had for their big recruiting weekend. We'll leave you, Rick. Thanks again for all your help, all the stuff you popped into me this week. We hope next week you guys to move to a different time. We're probably going to be moving our show from 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern to 6 o'clock Pacific and 9 o'clock Eastern. That way we have a little more time during the day to enjoy the sunlight, right? Summer's coming upon us. That way you guys have a little more time with the family on Sundays. And again, next week we'll be going at 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. So for Rick, I'm Tim. Thank you guys all for being here. And remember, you guys, fight on.
Hold up.
In the building.
What are we drinking? What are we sipping on? What are we sipping on?
Commitments.